Hey, you guys. Oh, there it is. It's live. Hi, I'm Lauren. I don't know if anyone's watching. I'm going to have to like refresh my screen and see if this works. It says 0 viewers, but I see there are 2 people in the chat, so I'm not really sure if that is going to work. If not, we'll have a replay, which will be exciting. Who's in the, if you're in the chat box, or if you can see me, go ahead and type in your name and where you're from. I would love to get to know you. I wonder if it needs to, there we go. Should probably refresh your screen. Maybe hit the play button. There we go. I'm not sure if it's working. Why is this so hard? Okay, well, I'm just going to start. I can't see any comments or anything like that. Oh, okay, wait. There's someone. Okay, someone is watching. That's exciting. Oh, goodness. All right, that's ringing. Okay, no one is watching. Gosh, I don't know why this isn't working. Okay, I'm just going to start, and maybe I'll just have to send out another email later with the replay. Technology. Grr, that makes me sad. Okay, so, oh wait, somebody is watching. Oh, all right. Well, I'm just going to start because I know it's a little bit late and I know you guys have been waiting. And I need to put this on airplane mode. Sorry, I always forget to put it on airplane mode. Hi, if you can see, I'm going to try and get into the chat really quick. Oh yeah, Christian. Okay, awesome. Okay. Okay, cool. Sorry, hopefully that thing will stop dinging. Okay, hi, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm sorry this took so long. For whatever reason, I can never quite get the technology piece to work, but there will be a replay, and I might do it again if I can figure it out. So today's webinar, we're just gonna talk about really easy peasy live events that you can do. And if you're just joining us, we just started, so you're not late, don't worry. Really easy peasy live events that you can do for your business or even for fun. When I started, oh yay, hold on, let me look at the comment. Yay, you're the best, Jennifer. Awesome, good, this makes me feel better. And I'm so sorry about all the tech issues. So we're gonna talk about the easiest events that you can host. I'm not going to really go through how to host them. I mean, these are pretty simple, but if you guys have questions around that, I'm happy to answer them. We'll do a little Q&A at the end. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, like my friend that keeps texting me is going to stop texting me. I can't figure out how to turn that Messenger app off. But anyway, so we'll go through our webinar, and then I'll leave some time for questions. I like to keep these to about 45 minutes because I know you guys are busy. So I'm going to switch my screen over and we'll go from there. Cool. Okay. There we go. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, you can. Okay, so the bummer is that I'm going to be able to hear the chat, but I'm not going to actually be able to see it. So if you have questions, I might have to just go through them at the end. I still haven't figured out a great way to solve this. Maybe I'm supposed to be like on mobile while looking or while watching so I can keep up with the chat. But okay, we're going to play the slideshow. Oops, is this the right one? Hold on. Yeah. Oh, I didn't change my title. Ha ha ha. So today we're just talking about easy peasy live events. A little bit of housekeeping. Again, Chat Tango, you can chat with me in the box. If you put your name in there first, that would be great. So I know who I'm talking to. I know sometimes it like doesn't show the name. So just try and pop your name in there so I know who I'm talking to. And then I decided to keep my webinars up all month. If you're on my list, like you might as well access them if you have questions or want to go back. So people sometimes ask about slides. I'm happy to send you the slides. Just send me an email. An October webinar, I think that's supposed to be October 16th, but it's going to be mid-month and you'll get an email about it. So feel free to write that down. What are we going to talk about today? Okay, so why are you at this webinar? We're going to talk about why events are one of the best ways to quickly grow your business and local network. I know a lot of you, so my story is, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a minute, but my story is that I grew my local network because I couldn't figure out how to do it online. It's hard. Growing an online network is really, really difficult. And it was just much more natural for me to grow one locally. And then once I figured out how to do it locally, it started to grow more organically online as well. And I was watching another webinar kind of a while ago about somebody was talking about social media. And one of the points that this person brought up is that events are kind of, or live interactions and connections are part of the human experience. And so the point a lot of times of social media is for people to feel connected or to get people in a room together. And so if you can effectively host live events, you're already, and then obviously use social media to kind of promote, you're already one step ahead. So again, we're going to talk about one really easy event that makes you look like a rock star. And I bring up 3 different kinds that you can host that I have loved hosting in the past. And the ones that I'm going to tell you about are the ones that I've seen the most results from in kind of like descending order. So we'll talk about 3 different kinds, but you can pick one. But these are just models that you can use. And then we'll just do a really brief bit about steps to planning and promoting said event. I'm not going to go super deep into it because I know we can leave that for Q&A, but I have a bunch of other webinars that talk about how to actually plan the event. But these are so easy, like they don't cost any money for you to host them usually, just a little bit of time. So that's what we're going to chat about today. Okay, so repeat after me. An event is a marketing tool. Say that to yourself, either out loud or in your head, whatever, or type it in the chat box if that makes you feel good. An event is a marketing tool. And I think at least initially, a lot of times people get hung up on like, oh, I have to create an event, I have to sell tickets, it's a workshop, I'm giving away value, I have to charge for it. And I think that is in a content-driven world where we are constantly being sold to. I think it's a really good idea, at least at first, when you're hosting kind of these more informal events, is to think of it as a marketing tool. Think of the effort that you're putting into it as going towards your marketing or advertising budget, because a lot of times the connections made from these events, if you do a good job of like educating people before the event about what it's supposed to be about, the connections made at these events are often really good, not only for your business or for whoever's hosting it, but also for the people around you. And so they'll think about, who hosted this event. She or he did a really great job at hosting this event. I'm going to refer not only the event, but maybe her services, even if I didn't get to talk to her. And I'll go into depth on that a little bit later. But thinking about an event as a marketing tool instead of as like, I need to book clients at this event, or I need to find I need to find prospective clients. I need to grow my event so that prospective clients come to it so I can meet them. Not the best way to think about it. Think about it more as a marketing tool about creating a community. And by being the leader of that community, you are inherently building your brand and building your identity within your community. Okay, whew, that was a mouthful. All right, our agenda. So let's see. A little introduction, which is what that just was. I'm going to tell you a story just about who I am. If you don't know who I am, I always do this, but and I always forget to do it, which is why I have to put it in my agenda. So then we're going to talk about, for about 20 minutes, the easiest event ever and how to bring it to life, maybe 20 to 30, just depending on kind of how long the slides go and how long I talk. And then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. I have a couple pre-written questions that people had emailed me, and then of course I'll take your questions from the chat box. And then we'll do a little bit of wrap up, talking about kind of next month or ways to implement or whatever you guys have. So that's our agenda. So this is me. I'm Lauren Caselli. That's actually what I look like most of the time. Mostly I'm working barefoot in some sort of like stretch legging capacity, and a shirt that is blousy so that I can mostly eat and not worry about food baby. Anyway, hi, I'm Lauren. It's so nice to meet you. I am a workshop, conference, and retreat planner and event strategist for digital entrepreneurs, which is a big mouthful. And basically what that means, basically what that means is I help entrepreneurs conceive of and create communities that around a live event or for a live event. So somebody, if you want a conference, if you want a workshop, if you're but you're not sure, you want to bring people together in person, but you're not sure how to execute it, I will sit down with you in a variety of capacities and help you figure out how to do that. Because it's a bear. Events are like a bear of a beast that are really, really challenging. And sometimes it's really nice to have someone on board to help you execute it. If you've ever planned a wedding or a dinner party or Thanksgiving, you know what I'm talking about. So my first job out of college, in 2007, I was a wedding planner, which seems to be the dream. It seemed to be like everybody was like, I really want to be a wedding planner. And I just have too much social anxiety to like plan the biggest day of someone's life every single week. And it was just so much pressure that I don't know how I got out of there unscathed. But I did do very large social events for a long time. And then my second job, about a year after that, I lasted a year in weddings, was as a corporate event planner. So I did a lot of strategic thinking, a lot of using events as marketing tools, a lot of really like great customer service and client service around events, which has been super fun to kind of work with entrepreneurs on, because you guys have so many great ideas about how you want to make your event experiences like really personal. And I love that, because a lot of times in corporate, you don't get that piece. And I was there for about 5 years, and then I was a copywriter. And as you can see, I sort of sucked about it. I really kind of sucked at it. And then there's a blog post about that. It's somewhere on my blog about how much I sucked as a copywriter, but sometimes you got to fail. And now job number 4 for about a year and a half is Lauren Caselli Events. So I founded it last year. And again, at first I only planned events for other people. I started just, like weddings, people were like, oh, I just need someone on site to manage. And I was like, well, I can do that. That's awesome. But then people started being like, I want you to help me plan my event, and I need to know about the money. So then I started getting questions about like, how do I make money on an event? What's the money that goes into an event? Why do I want to host an event? How do I make it profitable? And so then I did some research, and it turns out not a lot of people, unless you're like super corporate or in the super corporate world, are talking about how to create profitable events, how to make money at events. Ooh, I heard something in the chat. I wish I could switch over. But maybe I'll try and do it while I'm talking on my phone. Anyway, sorry. So it turns out no one is talking about this stuff. I couldn't find any information online. I think I was looking for something for a client, and I was like, oh, I wonder how to do this. And I literally couldn't find anything. So I decided to talk about what little I know about money and hosting live events and event strategy, and voila, and now I do event consulting and strategy. And what that means is now I sit down with people, and instead of like just planning their whole event, I'll do something like this webinar where, someone comes to me and they're like, I want to host an event, but I don't know where to start. And I'm like, let's start with something free and easy that will take you literally like a couple hours to plan and execute and invite people. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so now we're going to dig in a little bit to the meat, the easy peasy events. So before we start talking about that, I just wanted to mention that not everyone is like me. Not everyone is cut out to host an event, and that's fine. If you aren't great at organization, if you're like, I would rather die than network with people in person, then probably live events aren't for you. And that's fine. Like, no pressure. But here are some things that some characteristics that you might have if you wanted to host a live event. You must potentially be someone who has a hard time networking online, but likes to host or network in person. And I really love that. I love going to other people's networking events. I think I've been to 3 in the last 2 weeks. I just love being out of my house, especially if you're a digital entrepreneur and you are at home all day in your sweatpants. Oh, cool. I can see the chat. All right, awesome. This is amazing. Okay, so I don't know if there's a question that's like scrolling through. Okay, sorry. Next piece. So someone who's giving, oh, thanks for mentioning the copy is great. You guys are the best. So someone who's focused on giving and encouraging rather than presenting. And that's who these events are for. If you want to do a workshop and you really want to speak, and I won't really get into speaking, but if you're kind of like, I want to host a workshop and I want to speak, these events might not be the best for you. I'm talking about building a community, and what I'll get to, and a lot of you probably already know this, but the biggest part of building a community is being able to give a lot of value. And I think one of the best ways to give value to people is to make connections for them and using your own network, which you've already established, to kind of to provide value and make connections to other people, because it's something that not a lot of people do, not a lot of people know how to do. But if you can do it, it's kind of like the connector. I think Seth Godin wrote a book about like being a connector. So if you're a connector and you want to give and encourage and provide value, then these are events that are going to be good for you. And then the last thing is more logistical. Someone who needs a strong local network or wants to build a strong local network to also build their online presence. And for me, what happened, I live in a very small town, about 50,000 people, which I know some people don't think is small, but I came from New York City. So it was like being dropped in the middle of a cornfield. I did not have a very strong online presence, but as I started building my local network, obviously those people were talking about me online in like Facebook and then Twitter and all these other places, and then people started from other areas started noticing me, their networks, and that's how it works. That's how networking works. So anyway, so we're going to talk about 3 super easy peasy events. A networking event / a meetup, which we are all familiar with this model, and so I'm not going to talk a ton about that because well, a little bit, but we all know this model. I'm going to talk about a reciprocity ring, which is an awesome model. And if you haven't seen it, this is something that I really hope that you do. And then we're going to talk about a dinner party or a friend raiser. Friend raiser is more like the nonprofit world term for it. It's basically more like a potluck, but with a very specific intent. So this is kind of the old college way to run an event, or whatever, the old college try. This is how the standard way to run an event. Number 1, you find a venue, you sell tickets, you present great content, you feel good about your presentation, and then you do a happy dance. Notice how this event model is a lot about focusing on you, which is awesome. And if you're in the point of your business where you're like, I want to host an event, I already have my community, I really want to host kind of like a bigger workshop, that is, standard way to do it. However, a lot of times these kinds of events are lots of work with not a ton of financial reward for your time. They can be, you have to like get really deep into the strategy, but for the most part, if you're looking for like a quick, fast, easy way to make a buck, events, not it. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not hosting this like standard run-of-the-mill event that I described in bullet point 1. And then, of course, I'm going to make you say it again. The pros know something we don't. Events can be a marketing tool. And that's what these events are specifically about, being a marketing tool for your business. Okay. So event type number 1, networking event / meetup. Networking events. What is it? We all know. It's a meeting up at a set time and a place where you bring people together in a casual way to talk about something they all have in common. And we have all seen this model, and we have all attended events, or literally anything, dinner parties, or not dinner parties, but we've all been to kind of these casual meetups where you can go and meet people, depending on how aggressive you are or whatnot. and they can be kind of a bust if you don't do them right. So how do you do this type of networking event right? And I'll talk about planning it in just a second, but these are some tips, just how to make it more successful than like your run-of-the-mill, like let's all go to a bar. Niche down. So one of the pieces, again, I live in a small town, but one of the pieces that was really crucial to the success of the first networking event that I did, which was in September. July, August? No, I don't know. I don't remember. It was a couple months ago. Is I said, this is a networking event solely for female entrepreneurs and freelancers, which like really offended a lot more people than I thought it was going to offend. People were like, my husband wants to come. And I was like, nope, sorry, you can't. Like not, like if you showed up, I probably wouldn't be like, no, you can't come in. But creating, and I'll tell you why this is really awesome. Creating a niche, networking is hard, and getting people alone or getting people to come to an event is really, really hard. And getting to people to come to a free event is really, really hard because they're like, yeah, I'll put it on my calendar. But if there's no buy-in, it's like, they don't have to go. And so if you can make it as niche as possible, if you can make it like wedding planners or like what people in the wedding industry or designer meetup or something like that, female designers, I think you'll have more success because one of the easiest ways to get people to come to an event is to know that they'll already succeed. And if you're hosting an event for something that's extremely specific, then people are like, well, I will already know that I have something in common with every single person in this room. This could be great for me. So it lowers that barrier a little bit for somebody to come and attend your event. Like I said, I've had a lot of success with female entrepreneurs, specifically in creative industries, not a new model, but something that is not served in my community. And so I made it to serve my community. Anyway, another way to make it successful, provide a ton of value. And so this, again, is up to you as the host. You will be in charge of making your event as successful as possible. And what does that mean when it comes to a networking event? I should have written this down, but if you have a pen, write this down. One of the best ways is to greet every single person that walks into the door and introduce yourself to them. This is really hard with a networking event because like if you have a ton of people coming in at once, it's like really hard to meet everybody. But introduce yourself to them, and then potentially have, if you have a couple friends that are also there, potentially introduce those people to that friend, and then let that friend kind of like take over the conversation or whatever. It's really hard. The biggest barrier for that, the reason that people don't go to networking events is like you walk into a room and you don't know anybody and you have to like put on your big girl pants, and there's like a lot of anxiety and you don't know if people are going to be receptive and you don't know if you're in the right place. And there's just like, it's enough to like make people like scram and skedaddle and get out of there. So thinking about how you can make that transition a lot easier. Number one, introducing people, if you see someone walk in that you might know, sort of saying, hi, hello, thank you so much for coming. Let me introduce you to, tell me about you. Let me introduce you to someone else. And maybe having a couple people in the room, if you have a couple friends that would come and help you with this, having a couple people in the room doing that, looking for people who are looking a little bit lost and awkward and, they don't know anybody, or they're just talking to one friend, maybe kind of injecting themselves, because, we all want to say like, it's up to you to go to a networking event as an attendee. It's up to you to like make the most of a networking event. But if you are providing value for your attendees, they're going to know your name. They're going to be like, she made this so welcoming and I really loved it. It's just another level of customer service and client experience that you can provide, even if people are coming to a free event. And then they think like, oh, if she provides this level of client service at a free event, like what does she do for her paid clients or whatever? And so that's like a good way to roll people kind of into your funnel. I'm going to take a sip of water, so hold on one second. I'm talking very fast. So niche down, provide a ton of value. Another way to provide a ton of value is to specifically, welcoming people actually right away and kind of getting them into the room and, being there to greet them. There's nothing worse than walking into a networking event and not having like a handler or something to just kind of like, am I here? I don't know if I'm in the right spot. So greeting people. And then you, as the event host, it's extremely important for you to be creating relationships for other people. And if this isn't a strong suit, then potentially something to work on. So when you're talking to someone, you're meeting someone, being able to sit with them and listen to their story and have them say like, this is, ask me, tell me about your business, Sue. And then Sue tells, like, oh, here's my business, and this is what I'm struggling with. And then it's like, oh, well, you should meet my friend Rose. She is an X and she might be able to help you solve a problem. Or like you guys are both in kind of like the same industry, you would be good friends. So making those connections in a more intimate, in-depth way, even if it feels like you're, I'm here to network. No, you're here to make connections and provide value. So those are 2 ways to provide value. Another way to make it successful is to hand select invitees. I know a lot of times people are like, no, but I want it to be open to everyone, which is awesome. There's a time and place for that. But if you're starting these networking events, what would you much rather come to? An event where somebody like email blasted you or sent you a Facebook invite, or an event where the organizer was like, hey, so-and-so, I know you from the internet, or like, I know you from the community. I'd really love for you to come to this event. I'd love to talk to you in person. I'd love to get to know you a little bit. And I'd love for you to meet other women in the community. I mean, like if somebody hand invited me to an event, like even with a template email that was like, clearly a template email, I would be way more likely to go. And so that's something where you can just create a template and send it to, 20 people in your community, 10 people in your community? Do 10 people have, 10 of your ideal clients going to potentially be, at an event, or do you want them to come to an event? So hand selecting people without pressure to buy or to like come to the event and purchase anything is a really, really great way to get people to come and then, increase your turnout. So a reciprocity ring. I'm really excited to talk about this model. I just ran one of these and it was so fun. So what is a reciprocity ring? Okay, so a reciprocity ring, it's actually, I should like TM that because I didn't come up with it. It's actually a model that was created at, I think, the University of Michigan, but I am so in love with it. So basically a reciprocity ring is, and you can format it however you want, but you get between 8 and 20 people in one room to give to each other. The sole purpose of a reciprocity ring, and when you invite your people, again, hand selecting your invitees, when you get the people in the room together, you say something to the effect of, we are all here to give to each other. And it kind of creates this culture of, well, if I'm giving, if I get to give, then, okay, I know that I'm going to get something. And in order to get something, I need to give. And so it's kind of like a guilt trip to give things. But really it's like that pressure, that peer pressure to be collaborative in order, to get something back is like mind-blowing how that like psychology works. It's insane. So the one that I did was about, I think it was like 12 people. And the tough thing about a reciprocity ring, this works because the expectation is set that everyone will give in order for everyone to get. So you kind of create this expectation around giving. And one thing about a reciprocity ring that is super interesting, super helpful, or sorry, I should say, the reason the reciprocity ring should be smaller is because it's great to, so the ring, I mean, if you think about like 50 people going around in a circle, that would take forever. That would take like a whole entire day. So 20 people is even kind of a long time. It's like, takes like an hour or two. No, like 2.5 to 3, sorry. I was like an hour or two. Nope, that's optimistic. It's like 2.5 to 3 hours with 20 people. So, but what happens is, people come in. So the format, I'll explain the format here. So what happens is you invite between 8 and 20 people to, if it's your house, library, whatever. I'll go through that in a couple slides. But you invite them to the venue and you say, every person here has a duty to try to help every other person here. And so basically what happens is you start and you ask everyone to just come with an ask. And so that can be anything from like, I need a graphic designer, to I need someone to, help me move out of my house this weekend, to, my wife is going through chemo and she lost a lot of weight and she needs like, clothing was one of the asks, which I thought was amazing. And so it's literally like no pressure to like to have it be around business. You could make it business related, I guess, but really just creating like, what do you need help with and how can we help you? And that value, the value of going to a place where you literally don't have to give anything except for your time and your talent or things that you already have. And you can ask 20 other people or 8 other people or 10 other people or however many other people are there for anything. is amazing. And the other piece is that a lot of times when people kind of pool their resources, when you have 10 people in the room, it's like, well, I need a graphic designer. And someone's like, well, I don't have the time to like do all of your graphic design, but maybe I could do a logo for you. Or maybe I could pick some colors for your website. And then someone else is like, oh, if you do the colors, like I can do, like your name and calligraphy or something. And so it kind of like burdens the masses of a project instead of, one person giving a bunch of stuff. So anyway, let's see. Okay. So then the other amazing part about the reciprocity ring is that these create real working relationships so people can network without feeling sleazy. So if you think about like, I'm being vulnerable and creating an ask, and people are going to like actually give you stuff, then you get to meet that person, you talk to them after the reciprocity ring, then maybe they're like, oh, nobody in here is a graphic designer, but I have a friend who's a graphic designer and I can probably get her on board to help you out. So then not only have you met this person, but you've also met their friend. And so that's two people. Plus the people that you help, that you volunteer to help, then you meet those people and then you have access to their networks. And so it's a way of creating real working relationships with people and collaboration and networking without feeling that sleazy, like handing out of business cards, which is, why I have a hard time sometimes with like networking events where it's not very clear what the goal and benefit is from a networking event. So that's a reciprocity ring, which is an awesome model. And then a dinner party or a friend racer, which is how actually all of my events have started. They've all started as dinner parties and then kind of grown from there. What is it? A dinner party is a more intimate gathering with a targeted, hand-selected group of people. And by dinner party, you don't have to like cook dinner for everybody. I say dinner party, but I really mean like potluck. Like I'm gonna put out some cheese and crackers. And in terms of getting people to come to stuff like this, some of the events that I've hosted have been kind of like pieces of my network. And I've been like, who's the most obscure people that I know that are in my network that are business owners that I want to hang around with. And I want to invite them all together and they hopefully don't know each other, which is awesome. But the other thing that I do is sometimes I'll research people, businesses online, and I'll type in like Bozeman, Montana, women entrepreneur, and I'll just like look at all the businesses that come up, and then I'll just send them emails and be like, hey, do you want to come to this potluck? I think you'd be a really great fit. And that is something that like everybody says yes to that, because how flattering is it to get an email that's like, hey, you're on my radar. I want you to come to this like meeting of the minds at my house or the library or whatever. It's really flattering for business owners or whoever your target market is. Anybody really. I would be flattered if somebody was like, hey, you're on my radar, come to this group of moms. I'd be like, I'm not a mom, but like I would totally come because that's so flattering. So again, this works better than a standard networking event because each person gets specific attention and a chance to talk. Okay, so the model again with this one, with a dinner party, is you sit down and you kind of do a little bit of your hosting job. It's like, oh, hey, so-and-so, Mina, meet Jasmine, meet Katie, like, here, let me introduce everybody. And so you kind of have more of like this home feeling, this, kind of homegrown feeling. And then it's a little bit more structured than just a straight up like, hey, we're going to have cocktails at my house. So you sit down and then you ask some questions. And honestly, like every time I've done one of these, I've only had to ask 2 questions because in a room full of 8 women, like 2 questions is enough. Sorry, I think there's a question, so I'm just gonna let it scroll through. Anyway, so the 2 questions that I always ask are, what do you love about your business and what are you struggling with in your business? And that's enough to get people to talk forever. Would love to know how to use reciprocity ring in a non-business context. Just community building among women who take in-person classes with me. Any thoughts? That's a really great question. I would say you can use a reciprocity ring in a literally anything. You could, if Jennifer, tell me what kind of classes that you offer, and then maybe I can brainstorm some ways to use a reciprocity ring. If it's art classes, or it literally can be anything. I've been to reciprocity rings that are supposed to be like quote unquote business focused. And it's literally like people are like, I need help painting my garage this weekend. And someone's like, I can come paint your garage for an hour. And it's like, great, that is one person that's gonna help me paint my garage. It literally could be any sort of, I'm gonna see if you're gonna type in here. No. Okay. But yeah, if you have a specific kind of way, that you engage your people, let me know, and then I can comment on it. But it literally is one of those things where, again, if you hand target people and you say like, hey, here's, I have 20 spots or 10 spots for, you, and I would love for you to bring a friend. That's another really great way to do a reciprocity ring, is invite 5 people and then have each of those people bring 1 friend that they think would be really, open to something like this. And then you can kind of structure it around anything really. Like if it's crafting, it can be like, let's all get together and talk about, and ask about, family or whatever. So yeah, I can talk about that in a little bit on the Q&A as well. Sorry, so back to dinner parties. So you get more intimate experience. Again, like a reciprocity ring, a dinner party or potluck fundraiser or whatever. I would say between 8 to 10, maybe really small. Again, you get a more intimate experience. People stay the entire time instead of like leaving after 30 minutes. And thus the connections that are made are more intimate and more valuable. And you have a better chance of, at the end of the event, people being like, I trust you, let me introduce you to my friend, or, hey, let's get coffee later and talk about this, another time. So these smaller kind of dinner parties, and I'll touch on the fundraiser thing in a second, but these smaller kind of more intimate events are things that are super easy to throw together. Again, if you're hosting it, the only requirement is that your network, it's not gonna be like 10 of your friends. It's like 10 people who are kind of on the fringes of your network that you hand invite, and then you all come together and kind of create something awesome in terms of network. And then without the pressure to buy. Nobody's going to be sold to, hopefully nobody's going to be sold to. And then hopefully everybody gets something out of it, some sort of kind of deeper connection, rather than just like, oh, hey, I'm 30 minutes at a networking event. It's nice to meet you, and here's my business card, and I'll never call you again, like that kind of, like, you get 30 business cards or 10 business cards at a whatever, and I throw them on my desk and I never look at them again. So this is just a way to create more intimate relationships, whether it's business, whether it's, if you're marketing to customers or consumers, that too. And the other piece I should mention, and this is kind of like related to all of them, but as the owner of the event, it's important for you to reach across all parts of your network and non-network. Again, like I said, I stalk people online and invite them to things, but to bring the different groups of people together, because that is your job as any sort of event owner, is to bring people together and bring this community feeling together. So why would you want to host one of these? I mean, you're probably like, Lauren, this sounds great, but like, why do I really want to do this? Again, because the host that brings everyone together, you get the most kudos, even if you don't talk to everyone. And so what I saw this at when I started hosting my own events is people would say like, oh, I met at your event. And everybody remembered that it was my event, even if I never met them. And then what started happening is I would meet people elsewhere and they'd be like, yeah, I met you at your event. And like automatically, as the owner of any sort of event, you are kind of seen as I don't want to say the pinnacle, but you're seen as kind of like the organizer, the connector. And even if you don't meet them, people know you already because they know who's hosting the event, and you get that brand identity. And you don't even actually have to talk to everyone. A lot of networking events I go to, I talk to like the same 2 people networking events that I host. I'll like introduce myself to as many people as I can, but like deep connection, I really don't get to everyone. But what ends up happening is they're like, as the host of the event, people want to reach out to you. And so they're like, awesome, like, yeah, let's have coffee or whatever. As long as you don't try to sell. That's another, I should put that like on every slide. Don't try to sell. Don't try to sell at events. Just like have them provide value, and maybe, like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about jab, 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 right hook. So you give people these like tiny opportunities to interact with you, these jabs. And then once you feel comfortable with them, then you kind of right hook them, but it's not on like the first or even second interaction really. Another thing that I'll touch on in a second, it builds on your brand if you host things regularly. So if you're like, I'm going to do one event and never do one again, I mean, awesome, that's great. But if somebody goes to one of your events and they have a great time and they're like, this is a great recipe, I want to do this again, and I want to tell like 10 of my friends about it, or I want to tell one of my friends about it, it's one of those things that kind of like organically spreads like wildfire, to be honest. Again, and the other thing that I wanted to mention, all of the things, and I mentioned this earlier, but all of the things that we do are meant for connection. Social media, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, we constantly want to connect with people. So if you can provide people with that connection without asking anything of them, they'll literally automatically like you. You're basically saying like, I'm going to do all of the work so that you can have a human interaction, a human connection. And I guarantee that you'll have that human interaction, human connection in a positive way. People are like, I'm done. I'm sold. Like, yes, I'm in. Sign me up for this. I want to come. And yeah, they'll automatically like, I mean, you know, unless you do a terrible job, which I don't think you will because you're here listening to this webinar. And if you're here listening to this webinar, you're literally light years ahead of all of the networking events that I've been to in the last 3 weeks that I just mentioned. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about planning, and then we'll do some Q&A. So first things first, find a venue. So for free events, do a free venue. Do not pay for a venue for an event. And here are some things. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. Of course, if you have kids, that might be a little bit hard, but I've hosted all of these events that I just mentioned at my house. I hosted one at a bar. And it should be free, and they should pick up your bar tab as the event owner, because if you're going to say, hi, I'm going to host a networking event, I'm going to bring 25 people into your restaurant/bar for an hour, and you're going to make it, they should be like, okay, great, and we'll pick up your tab. They should. I mean, if they don't, you know, I live, you know, maybe if you live in New York City, maybe a little bit different. They're kind of like, don't care. In smaller towns, or kind of like on off-peak nights, like Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays, which is when I host most of my events, are on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. They'll be like, yeah, come in. Like, yeah, coffee shops too, same thing. Like, we're going to bring 25 people into your coffee shop at a non-busy time. Okay, come on in. But again, free. Think free. What are places that people normally naturally already gather? How can you give the owner a heads up and say like, hey, this is happening. Like, would really love to work with you on it. Are you cool with that? Most of the times they're going to say yes, because they're going to want people to come into their space. And if you're doing all of the work getting them to come into their space, like, you should be, they should not say no to you, or you should be, I don't want to say you should be compensated, but like, you should at least have some sort of mutual agreement that they'll let you be there, and they won't interrupt your kind of like networking or whatever type event. Oh, this is going to go backwards in order. So number 2, decide how big you want this event to be. Again, for me, I love the small intimate events because I think that's a really great foundation to host the bigger ones. When I started doing events, my first event that I did was a dinner party. It was a potluck, and I think I spent $40 on like cheese and crackers and a little bit of wine, and everybody brought something. And again, it was 10 people. And from that first event, people were like, you need to do this more. I want to invite my friends. Like, let's do something bigger. And that's how my first paid event happened, which was the Boss Lady Bash about a month later. Yeah, a month and a half later. And then again, think about who you want to invite and manually invite them. Again, you know, I'm going to drill this home. Ask them to bring a friend if you want it to be bigger, but do some manual inviting. And don't just be like, here's my Facebook event. You should check it out. It's like email blast to all your friends. Literally, like, pick 10 people that you want to come and say, hey, I'd love for you to come to this. And you should bring 1 or 2 friends because that you think would be good to go to this event as well. So, okay. And then just invite them via email and tell them what to expect. It doesn't have to be like a big fancy like event launch. Like, this is a free event. This should not be taking a ton of your time. Again, the amount of time that you put into it is, hopefully reflective of the things that you'll get out of it. But you don't have to like set up a mailing list or like, no, I didn't do any of that. I just was like, here's like 10 emails of people that I know that would want to come to this. I'm going to invite them, do this like free thing. And this is what they can expect. And all 10 of them said yes, and all 10 of them came, and all 10 of them were like, when are you doing this again? And I'm coming to every event that you ever do in the future. So, sip of water. So yeah, manage expectations, send people like just a handwritten email. But again, it doesn't have to be this huge, crazy like Facebook event or whatever. Some things to think about. You should host one of these on a recurring basis. So if you pick the networking event, if you pick a dinner party, if you pick the reciprocity ring, think about hosting them recurring, and think about hosting them recurring in the same place. I think I mentioned that next. No, I don't. Sorry. Think about hosting it in the same place, because here's the thing. If somebody at the end of the event is like, I would love to come to this again, when's your next one? And you're like, it's like you lost them. And so, I'm not going to say like, come armed with like 12 events, maybe like 3 if you're going to do like, three free events, you know, and, you know, don't stress yourself out. If you're like, I really can't host more than one, fine. You don't have to. But like, if you don't have, you know, kind of a second event, take their email down and say like, hey, we're thinking about doing this more recurring. I'm glad you really, really enjoyed it. I'll email you when the next one is, but it's probably going to be in about a month or, you know, a week. If you want to do a weekly model, that's fine. It's probably going to be about a month or 6 weeks or whatever. It should just be, you know, and it's going to be at the same place. I really, really highly recommend doing things at the same place. Maybe after 6 months you can change, or 3 months if you want to do a recurring event. But to really build that like brand recognition, you want people to like not even need to know. Like, we meet the second Wednesday of every month, and we meet at Joe's coffee shop or whatever. Because then people don't have to think about it. They're like, okay, second Wednesday, mentally, like in my mental note, maybe I'll put a note on my calendar, and you know, maybe you can follow up with them via email. But thinking about recurring, doing it recurring, will keep people engaged more, because they can always say like, oh, I know, second Wednesday of the month, or they can tell a friend about it. Oh, you should go to this, you know, oh, you're looking for a community of women that craft, or whatever it is. You know, they host meetings on the second Wednesday of every month at their shop. You know, obviously that's something that they're like, oh, okay, great. Instead of like, I don't know when they're hosting the next one, but like, maybe you should check them out. You know, that obviously giving people kind of a more firm time, date, place, whatever. Again, this way people can tell their friends, network about them, and you may be able to eventually monetize if there's enough demand. Again, that's, I mean, you know, educating people about when all these events are going to be, and kind of giving them this like, you know, it's like, it's the same reason that email marketers send an email every Tuesday at 6 a.m. It's like then you get into the habit of being like, oh, it's Tuesday at 6 a.m. I'm going to read an email from somebody. So, you know, oh, I can forward it to my friend. They're going to come every Tuesday at 6. I know that it's going to be there. So, so yeah. And again, as the group grows, think of ways you can continue to provide value. So again, a reciprocity ring isn't going to work if your group grows. Your reciprocity ring for 10 people is not going to work for 50 people. So thinking about, okay, like, how do I grow this, and how can I provide value? Do I want to host another just like run-of-the-mill cocktail hour networking event that everybody has hosted and been to in the past? Maybe you do table topics. That's something that I love, is doing, like, buying a little set of those conversation cards. I think they're like $10, and then giving everybody, when they walk in, like a conversation card that they can like either hold on to the whole night, or they can like trade with someone else. But then if they run out of things to talk to, they at least have this like little dorky card that they can like walk up to someone and be like, ooh, hi, it's nice to meet you. My, you know, question is X. I love that. Oh, so I'm like surprised. If you liked this, you know, I do one-on-one strategy sessions if you're like, I really want to host an event, but I'm still super overwhelmed about like literally everything else that we didn't cover. You know, I offer one-on-ones. We can sit down. I don't, you know, not every event needs to be full planned by me, but I do offer one-on-ones to sit down and kind of be like, okay, what sort of event do you want to host? You know, I help you get some of your ideas out on paper. And then we talk a lot about money. We talk a lot about monetizing, what the strategy is, and how it fits into your larger business picture. Because again, like anything, you don't want to waste your time on something that's not fitting into your larger business picture. And so I kind of help you clarify that. So that's the website, laurencaselli.com/plan of attack. Pretty easy. Okay, let's do Q&A, and then I'll switch over to the chat. Here are a couple questions that I got. How do I get people to show up? That is the question that I get constantly in my Facebook group. If you're not a part of that, you should be a part of it. But like, how do I get people to show up to my event? You hand invite them. You basically give them an invitation and you say, I would love for you to come and I would love for you to bring a friend. That's how networking is. And that's like, it is old school. People connection is old. We are moving back to that old school mentality of like, who you know, please share with me who you know. And everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants to meet new people, especially for business purposes and or, you know, friend purposes. There's a group in town that does like an adventure buddy kind of like networking meetup, which I think is a great idea, because like you definitely need more than one adventure buddy, and you know, to do skiing or hiking or whatever, because not everybody's going to want to ski, not everybody's going to want to hike. And so and not everyone's going to be free on Saturday at 7 a.m., you know? And so thinking about how you can provide value, what's not already in the market. Again, an adventure buddy meetup is amazing. Crafting buddy meetup, that's amazing. And hand inviting them. So using your existing network. Okay, who do I have in my network that loves to go on adventures? These people, and they would probably love to come to this event because they need more friends that do this same thing that I do. Another question is, what if I want the event to be bigger? That's great. It's going to be bigger eventually if you put the work into it. It's kind of like anything. It's like, I want my email newsletter list to be bigger, and I wanted to like sit down and I wanted you to tell me how to do that. It takes time. I mean, like, you know, maybe you're in a space right now in your business where you don't know anybody, and you're like, I want to build a network and I want to throw an event for people who would be interested in, you know, being in my network. It takes time to grow. If you want it to be bigger, go with the networking event model. That just has, you know, it opens it up to more space. It's in a public place. A lot of times when you're hosting those smaller events, if it's not in a public place, people get a little scared and they're like, I don't know if I want to go to your house and do a reciprocity ring if I don't know you that well. And then also another way to do it is if you are working with a bar or a venue or whatever, just creating a simple printout or a flyer so that they can hang it up and help you promote it. Because if they're patrons already and they might have some of the same interests. I've done Facebook ads. I've spent about $50 on Facebook ads for some events, and the $50 I spent on the Facebook ad to get people to come to the event. One of the girls that came ended up hiring me, so I was like, I paid for my Facebook ad. And then the other question, I thought of myself. Why can't I copy someone else's model or take on someone else's franchise? 1 Million Cups is an example of this. I don't know if you can Google it, 1millioncups.com, I think is the website. Or I think there's a thing called Tuesdays Together, or there's something in the wedding industry that Sage, one of the wedding companies, started. And it's like, you know, in all these cities across the country, we all get together and do like a networking event. That's great to leverage kind of the power, but those people are already going to be in your community. And the other thing is, like, you don't get the daps or the kudos as if you were like, I'm going to create my own creative thing that I'm going to own. You just don't get as much. You might get more people showing up, but you just don't get as much credit for it, to be honest. The people, if you copy somebody else's model, or if you're like being a franchise of somebody else's event model, you just don't get as much recognition as you would if you created your own event. Cool? All right, I'm gonna go to the chat. Feel free, does anybody have any questions? Hold on. There we are. I'm gonna stop presenting to everyone. Yay, there I am. Do you guys have any questions for me? I'm gonna actually, hold on, let me open up the chat. Where is it? Technology is so hard sometimes. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Dance, oh, that's a great question. So yeah, Jen, you could just do like, I mean, literally, you could just do any sort of personal reciprocity ring. I mean, maybe it's something where someone's like, I want to get together and like, let's see, I want to get together and, you know, we'll do a reciprocity ring around dance or around arts. You know, it's like people need friends to like go, you know, I want someone to help me choreograph something, or I want someone to help me, you know, with my whatever it is. And just, I guess, just thinking about kind of what you can just do it. You can also just do a social reciprocity ring where you're just like, you know, we all need something, whether it's, you know, somebody to, again, help us paint our garage, or we need somebody to help us work on something on the weekend, or we need somebody to help us, I don't know, be a friend, go on an adventure hike, take more dance classes with. I need to know, you know, I don't like showing up to dance classes that I don't know anybody. And I want to have like a regular dance buddy that I go with. Literally anything. Reciprocity rings are great. I know, for the holiday, that's a really good idea to do a reciprocity ring for the holidays. Yeah, I would say do it, and just kind of, you know, maybe it's some, you know, it can be something as simple as like, I don't want to do any shopping. I want a shopping buddy. I want somebody to like help me like go and, you know, do my, whatever. I don't know. I'm sure you have better ideas than I do, right? But thinking about doing it around kind of like what your people need, what they're looking for in their lives. Maybe just asking them too, like maybe if you have a couple students in your class, just be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this really fun idea, this fun reciprocity model. What would you want out of it? Should we center it around a theme? And if not, you know, and if they're just like, no, I would just love to come and, you know, have it be general and open, you know, you might get a little bit more interest from other people, and kind of, you might, you know, create some cool like collaborations of artists and people in, you know, from all different kind of like areas. Cool. Does anyone have any other questions? I think we went right about an hour. I was like not expecting to go right about an hour, but a little bit less, 45 minutes-ish. Any other questions? I am happy to, this replay will be online for the next month. Feel free to share it with anybody. I'm happy to answer questions, always happy to answer questions via email. Yeah, if you don't have questions, awesome. If you do, feel free to send me an email. I'm Lauren, I'll type it in there. I'm sure you know it by now, but it's Lauren at laurencaselli.com. Whoop, whoop. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me today. I know it's hard to like carve out an hour of the day to do a webinar, so I really, really appreciate you being here. Cool. Well, let's see. What other things do I have to mention? I can't think of anything right now. So I'm going to end the webinar. Again, if you have questions, feel free to email me at that email address. And I will see you in a month. I think it's the 16th. If not, you'll get an email about it. Cool. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for being here.